This is Triple Play Fantasy Coaches Corner, giving you another edition. We're talking a little all NBA predictions with I think less than 3 weeks of the NBA season left. So still, 8-10 games to be played. I'm joined with Coach Coleman. Last time I was talking to you, you turned the contractor away and you put your big boy pants on. You said, "No, I'm gonna go fix the fence." How you doing?
Yeah, I'm still sore. That's how I know I'm getting old. Is I had to fix the fence and we had to go there, but we're back, and so we're excited to talk about a little all NBA.
And they opened up the gym at the LA Fitness, and so I did a little back to back workout, and my knee was crushed. I was walking gingerly the rest of the next 2 days, and I don't even know what I did. I didn't do anything. It was just playing.
That
So
COVID-20, coach. That COVID-20 is a real thing out here. We got to try to get rid of it.
I'm telling you, my knees, my ankles aren't ready for this extra weight, but I'm glad they finally did it. I mean, it's like, dude, just can I sign up for 30 minutes? I mean, I'll wear my mask the whole time. I just want to. It had been over a year since I did indoor basketball, so I'm Coach Lou. I like to hoop a little bit, but I can't do back to backs. I'm like Kyle Lowry right now, who won't get a mention this year around, but he's been on this All NBA team before. So we're going to break down our first team, our second team, our third team. We might even put together a fourth team because it's so hard making these lists. These are, the 15 best players in the NBA. And it's kind of, you're splitting hairs at the end here. You're like, with 71 games, is it the guy that played more? Is it the team that's winning? Or is this just number based? So we're kind of put all that together in a little all-star, all-NBA smoothie. And we'll start with our first team here. And Kev, I'm going to let you do the honors. You can start with your first team, all-NBA.
Yeah, I think when we're looking at the first team, I think our people are going to be pretty close together here. Steph Curry, as much as I've kind of been, I'm not saying I'm a hater with Steph. I just have always kind of felt like he's a little overrated in terms of who he's played with. But hey, he's absolutely balling right now. 50, 40, 90 club. He's consistent. Without him, they're not even close to where they're at right now. So I put Steph on my first team All NBA. My next guard might be a little controversial. I put Damian Lillard there. Lillard's my guy. He's someone that, when you look at what he's doing, he's gotten the Trailblazers, pushing into the playoffs. He's just clutch. I love watching him play. I got to give a shout out to Lillard just because I think we forget about him because he's been playing in Portland for so long in that desperate area up there, that city. Then I got Kawhi. As much as I don't like Kawhi, I got him on my team. You got to put Kawhi on there.
What's your beef? What's your beef with Kawhi? Because I haven't heard this take.
No, to me, it was the whole drama with the Spurs. And I felt like that he really overplayed kind of his victim card with them, where they really catered to everything that he did. From what I saw, I obviously didn't see everything. I think he's a great basketball player, but I just felt like I hate that crap in the NBA now. I'm old. So I get that, like, hey, can't we just play and roll the ball out, let's go. But I feel like
there is a lot that we don't know with that story too, which is always going to kind of linger. And it's not going to come from the Leonard camp about what happened. So yeah, we'll see what happened. What you think about how the ending in Toronto? I mean, they win the championship. He's a free agent. They got the whole core still there, and he decides to pack his bags, go to LA, bring his buddy PG-13, and
I don't mind what he did in Toronto. Like, who knows? I wouldn't want to live in Canada. Like, I don't think I would want to go. Sorry, all my Canadians out there. I don't know if I'd want to live there. And he's from LA, so I get that. Like, I understand him coming. So I don't mind him leaving, but I just hate the super team crap. So, like, the whole calling Paul George, and then Paul George is probably my least favorite NBA player on the face of the planet. So the whole getting him all over there and doing those things. This year he's done great. 25, 6, and 5. He's got his team ready. Per is 26. He's fifth in the league. So he's absolutely dominating. But I hate the Clippers. I hate the Clippers. I don't even like the Lakers, but I don't like the Clippers even more. So I put him on there, but it hurts.
All right. Your other forward and center.
Yeah, Giannis. So I'm putting Giannis on there. That dude's just straight up firing. I can't wait to watch him lose in the first round of playoffs.
You are still Kevin Coleman.
That's right.
Greek freak. Greek Freak.
Yeah, I'm just gonna call him Greek Freak. But I'm gonna put him on there. He's still gonna lose in the first or second round, but I gotta put him on the all NBA team there. And then the Joker is my fifth guy. I think he's MVP. I think you'd have to agree with that. He's
I
almost
do agree with that. 26, 11, 9, 50, 42.
Yeah.
90. And for a center and a guy in a year where basically every single person that we're going to mention here has missed games or a lot of games, he hasn't missed a single one. No. And he loses his point guard, his other star, and they don't skip a beat. That in fact, they start winning more. So Nikola Jokic is definitely my MVP, and he's the certified center here. Although the guy in the second team, I think is better than him. He doesn't deserve the MVP nod over him or first team All NBA based on missing those games, and just it's so spectacular what Jokic has been able to accomplish this year. And to be honest, he's like the most improved player to me. I've seen him go from 19 to all the way up to 26. Like he took a big leap. I know his name's not really mentioned there. When you're that big of a superstar, you don't really get put into the most improved player of the year award category, but he's incredible.
Well,
so
No, shout out to the dad bod. I appreciate you. Like, you made me feel better about myself. That dude he can't get hurt. Like, that dude is just, he's got the dad bod. That dude's lifting grizzly bears over the summer. Like, that guy is just a monster.
He knows how to pick his fights too. I know he made some comment about like taking it easy, really. Like it's not that serious. Like, okay, maybe in playoff time, but these players are doing their all, and he just kind of goes through the motion. The game just comes so easy for him. So he's definitely my center. I can't argue with you on your forwards. Giannis Antetokounmpo is and has been amazing, especially after like the first 10 games of the season. Once they got Jrue Holiday in the mix, that they are an interesting team. They just beat the Nets back to back. And I'm looking to see if he could finally get over the hump in the playoffs. We all know his troubles there. He's averaging 29, 6, and 11. And looking at his percentages, his free throw, his field goal, and his 3-point percentage are all up this year, which people aren't really talking about. And defensively, we know how big of a force he is. He blocked Kevin Durant yesterday, and it was like an easy block. And you just never see Kevin Durant getting blocked on a jump shot. So defensively, he's great, just like Leonard. I got him. I got Steph Curry. What Steph Curry's done this season is just eye-opening, spectacular. He's playing better basketball than he's ever played before. I know he's won the MVP. It was unanimous. But the way he's playing this season, the way he's scoring, the scouting report, he's going to break the record for three-pointers made average a game. It seems like he makes 10 a night. He's just been unbelievable, and he shoots like 11 of them a game, but he's still shooting 42%, and he's shooting them from the logo. Steph Curry's my guy, and he doesn't have his boy Clay. He's got to deal with Pouty Wiggins and Kelly Oubre's sporadic play all the time. He can really only rely on Draymond. Wiseman goes out with an injury. They've just been banged up. He's fighting through an ankle injury. So he's my number one guard to me. And I went Luka over Dame, which it is a bit splitting hairs. He would be my top guard on that second team. But what Luka's done this season, putting his team on his back, it just seems like he just keeps getting better. I mean, once you see, it feels like he just has everything in the game figured out. He's averaging 28, 8 and 8, and he's now hitting 37% of his threes. Like his percentage went up and so that being more efficient. And I always kind of think, I don't think the Mavericks roster is too good. Like I think they're all right, and then you got to deal with Porzingis missing like every other week, hypothetically. So I went Luka first team, but it is a shame that here goes Damian Lillard getting overlooked again. And I don't know if he's ever been first team All NBA. Maybe he was last year, but he's still as consistent as he gets, and he's still a logo Leonard for a reason. 29 points, 7 assists. The Trailblazers are in the mix. They've dealt with a lot of injuries this year, but he's kind of just consistently led them through, and they're dangerous in the playoffs. I don't really see them getting too far, but like they have a makeup of a really good team when they're like all playing well with him, McCollum, Anthony, Nurch. So that's my I guess my first guy for my second team was Damian Lillard, and I'll just roll off the rest of my list. I have Bradley Beal as my second guard, and this one was hard because James Harden plays 10 more games. James Harden's probably on my first team. So I got Bradley Beal. He didn't make it last year. He's constantly overlooked. He leads the league in points per game. Him and Steph Curry battle that back and forth. He's just a model of consistency. Franchise record, 60 points in a game. So I got Brad Beal there. My two forwards is a guy that you despise, and I really, he's not one of my favorite players either because I can't trust him. He's a cool guy, but this is Paul George. But what he's done this season is he turned it up. His training in the offseason really worked out, and he's just been lights out all season, and we know how good he is on the defensive end. So both of those Clipper guys are on my first and second team, and the Clippers are super, super dangerous. I got LeBron on my second team. I know that he's missed a lot of games with the ankle, but he was my leading candidate for MVP when he did get hurt, and I know he's out for the next 2 games, but I see him playing out the rest of the season. He was playing good defense. To have LeBron, first of all, off of a 1-2-3 team, that's just a travesty. That should never happen. And I got probably someone unanimous here, Joel Embiid in my center spot. So what do you think about my second team? Do you have any differences in any pushback?
I just have a couple differences. The only thing is, I have Luka on my second team just because I want to give Lillard a shout out, and I think that Lillard deserves first team nods. And also, Luka just got crossed up by Trevor Ariza last night, who I didn't know actually played in the NBA. So there are some things that I gotta just say. Luka can't play defense. I'm gonna keep telling everybody, Luka cannot play defense. Trevor Ariza, the Ariza ball hand of the master.
He slipped.
Whatever. He got whatever. But I'm not gonna say anything away from him. Second team to me. He's got that team in the playoffs, which is a trash roster. They've done a bad job building around him. Porzingis is overrated. So, like I said, he could easily be first team there. I have Harden on my second team. I know that he missed a lot of games. I know that, but when Harden plays, he's virtually unstoppable. He was averaging 25. He led the league in assists, and he was still grabbing about 9 rebounds a game before he got kind of hurt. He really transitioned well with the Nets. I know that he kind of had this. And so I still have Harden up there just because when he's on that court, he is one of the best players in the NBA. And I know that I think he's played around 48 games-ish, 42, 48 in there. So I get the games played thing, but hey, it is what it is. I got Paul George there too. He's been fine this year. When you're looking at him, he's been great behind the 3-point line in that 40% range. He's averaged about 23, 6'5". He's in that category. So as far as a player, he's done very well. The biggest knock on him is he's not going to do it in the playoffs. So until he does it in the playoffs, it's going to be his biggest knock. He never steps up and compete in the playoffs. So for me with Paul, it's okay, you do a great regular season, and some players just don't have it. We'll see if he can actually lead them into it. So everybody says that the Clippers are dangerous, which you said too, which I do agree. The Clippers can be dangerous, but if Paul George doesn't show up, they're Kawhi and who? So that's kind of my mind.
If he can play a Scottie Pippen-esque role, and Kawhi can put his Superman jacket on and do what he does in the playoffs, which is outside of LeBron James, he's maybe our most spectacular playoff performer in the NBA, having 2 Finals MVPs and leading that Toronto Raptors team. It'll be interesting to see if Paul George can just at least play close to the level that he has been during this regular season. He was banged up a little bit last year. I'm not trying to make excuses for him because he didn't show up. He was hitting the side of the backboard, and the chemistry was awful. The body language was disgusting. That's another gripe, a coach gripe. Stop looking like that. It's so negative. It's so when Doncic does. Doncic just cries all the time too, and he's one of my favorite young players, but just leave it alone. Stop. Stop it.
And as much as I like Doc as a coach, like I think he's good. I think that was part of the body language problem because him and Paul just don't get along. They have some personal things that they don't get along with.
And Doc would hit you with one of these, like, that takes the life out of you. Yeah.
And so Paul, and I understand that, but again, I'm gonna keep bagging on Paul till he does it. I don't care who hears me. I know no one cares. I'm just saying the best shots he's ever made is in a commercial in the playoffs. Like he doesn't do it in the playoffs. So as far as regular season goes, he deserves to be on a second team. He's done it. My next guy is LeBron, just because before he got hurt, he was 25, 8-8. This dude was one of the best players in the NBA, and this is his 18th year. It's insane that I've been watching this guy for 18 years. He's absolutely deserves to be on there. And then Joel Embiid, if he didn't get hurt and he didn't have that, we talk about him as being the MVP of this league with Joker right there next to him. I like what he's done. It probably cost an MVP, but they're 1 seed in the East. And I'm telling you, that 1 seed is so important. So you don't have to play the Bucks and the Nets. You have to get that 1 seed. I think the Sixers need to get that 1 seed more than any other team so that they can stay at home, have home court advantage, and don't have to face one of those two teams in the playoffs. So that is something to me that Joel is able to do that.
Yeah, you don't want to do that. You don't want to, and even if you win, it's gonna be a battle.
Yeah.
So you just, and the Nets are so dangerous. Like you want to stay away from them as long as you can. And the way Giannis has been playing lately, we just talked about it. They become all of a sudden scary with Drew Holiday. I just think that they're just a much better team. That they have one guy that just makes great plays down the stretch on both ends, and just is somebody that I can put the ball in his hands, and I trust that I'm going to get something good out of it, even if he's not going to shoot it. Whereas like we put, Chris Middleton on an island and try to have him decide the game it's just not the best tactic when you're winning. And he's been consistent too. So at least they got 3 guys out there that I trust. Brook Lopez has been playing well as of late. So we'll see what happens with the Bucks, but Paul George, we need to see you do something in the playoffs, but we got you here in the second team. And LeBron James, I have to agree that we had all of those the same. But I'm curious to hear yours. Go ahead.
Well, Kev. The only thing I didn't have is Beal. So Beal didn't make any of my teams. So I left him off the second and third.
The guard is the hardest position to judge in here. Like when I was looking at it, forwards, I could make 4 teams, and I am convinced that those are the top 2, 4, 6, 8 forwards in the NBA. But the guards is super, super difficult, especially with some of these injuries. And then especially with the top teams having like 2 amazing guys that we haven't mentioned yet, Chris Paul and Donovan Mitchell. I'm getting ahead of myself, but Devin Booker, Donovan Mitchell, and Mike Conley, like these guys are just playing exceptional. And then the next Nets backcourt. So I'm curious to hear your third team. And don't you try to put Ben Simmons in here, because he doesn't even belong in this conversation.
I didn't put my boy Ben, but he deserves to be an honorable mention. So I put Kyrie. So I have Kyrie there. I think that for me, he as much as the other stuff that he does that drives me crazy, he is one of the most skilled scorers in the NBA, and he's averaging a career high right now. He's basically assisting on basically 50. He's shooting 51% of the field, give or take, depending on where the numbers are at. When they're all together on that court, the Nets are unstoppable. And so Kyrie kind of leads that. I also want to give a shout out to Kyrie because he moved to shooting guard. Basically, he said, Harden, you take it. This is you. So he did have some selfless things there. So
absolutely. He definitely should get a salute for doing that.
Because that's a basketball play. And for me, I think that was good for him to show, hey, I can kind of go down, kind of be not Robin, but just, hey, you that's your skill set. So that showed me maturity, which I think he has sometimes. I put Devin Booker on my third team.
That's a smart sometimes, because he does have a lot of maturity sometimes. It's just the other times we don't know what he's thinking.
Yeah, so Kyrie is a love-hate for me as a Duke fan. And then you got Devin Booker. I put him on here. I think you have to. He's averaging career high in field goal percentage. He's got that Suns team in the playoffs. Yeah, him and Chris Paul are just balling right now. And so I had to give out a shout-out to my guy Booker because I think that he's one of the best guards in the NBA.
So you're essentially taking him over Chris Paul, though, for the third one.
Yeah.
All right. Do you think he's better than Chris Paul, or do you think that he's the best player on that team?
I think that Chris Paul is a very good manager of a team, and he's a very good basketball player, and he always has been. He's been one of my favorite players growing up. But I think Booker is the superior talent from an NBA perspective.
Nice.
Right now, not like
nice diversion. Right well now. Said too. No, I'm with you. Like that was a great explanation of that. But I had to get the captain, Chris Paul. He was my choice for over D-Book. And I know that's splitting hairs, and there goes Devin Booker being, undervalued again. I think he's the better basketball talent right now. But to take a team that didn't make the playoffs last year to the first or second best record in the whole entire NBA, that goes on the shoulders of Chris Paul's leadership. It goes on his consistency with being a 3-level scorer, being a dynamo defensively, and he always is going to give you two steals a game. He's one of the better perimeter point guard defenders that we've seen in his game, and changing his diet, being consistent on the court. He had injuries in the past, 2-3 years that were holding him back. Not last year, but it seems like he fixed that diet aspect. And so I got to get Chris Paul. It's also kind of this is probably his last one. This is probably going to be his last all NBA list, because these are the top 15 players in the world. And I think we can both agree. We don't think he's a top 15 player in the NBA, but he's played top 15 ball this season to get his team in that position. So
I think realistically, you could have cooked off Kyrie, right? Like
and that's coming up actually for me. I have currently James Harden as my third team last guard, but I have it like with a slash of Kyrie Irving, that if James doesn't play or plays maybe like 2 more games for the rest of the season, I got to give it to Kyrie because of his consistency. Because he played more games than Durant and James. He's been consistent. He changed that position. 27 a game, 5 rebounds, 6 assists, and he had 38 last night. He's been spectacular this year. You can't stop him. No, I don't think he's better than James Harden, but at some point we have to put in the factor that those 8 games for Houston were, an eyesore, and he flaked out. Like that's part of this season. He bammed out on his team, and for me, that's why. I mean, I still got it in because he was when he did get hurt, he was in my top 3 of my MVP race at that time. So another guy that was playing maybe some of the best basketball in the entire NBA had to go down. He's in there. I think this is where it gets juicy. I'll throw out my center first. It's Rudy Gobert, and I think it's hands down. I don't think you can really come up with 3 centers. He's been the rock of that Utah team. He's been the MVP of that team. Just because of the consistency on both ends, and he's a top 5 defense himself. He affects everything. He affects the winning culture in Utah. And I know you're not a big Gobert person because he kind of gets exposed in the playoffs, but regular season, he's who you want. So I got Gobert, and then my forwards here, I got Julius Randle, and my second forward here, I got, as of today, it's Jimmy Butler. So that's my third team: Chris Paul, James Harden, Kyrie if James doesn't play, Jimmy Butler, Julius Randle, and Gobert. So I'm curious to hear your forwards, because they're probably two guys that I didn't mention.
Yeah, they're different. I do have Rudy. Rudy deserves it. He's almost averaging 3 blocks per game, which is absurd. The things that he can do on defense, and he deserves to be on there. So my first one is Jason Tatum. So I got to give a shout out to my guy Tatum. I know that he's kind of I don't want to say he's underachieved, but the Celtics haven't looked amazing. But he's averaging 26, 7, and 4 right now. His PER is basically 26.
Without him, they're like probably 12. Like they lean on him. He's so clutch. He's on my 4th team. So he was where I actually, my last nod was Jimmy over Jason. And We'll talk about that, but go ahead. You were talking about, you were praising Tatum, who just dropped a franchise record 60 points this last week.
Yeah, and then he just competed against Portland and beat them and kind of went head to head with Lillard, and he scored more points than him. And you saw that, like, what he could do. He's had a career high from the free throw line. He's just upped everything about his game this year. Now, I think the Celtics have done a poor job of roster construction. So it definitely has nothing to do with him. That has to do with kind of how they built around those guys. Because him and Brown, and Kemba's been kind of down a little bit. So I love it. I love what he did, and so I believe he gets a third team shout out, especially just because of who he is as a person and a player this year. My next guy might be a little bit of a homer pick. It's Zion. I put Zion on my third team.
He's on my fourth team too.
So he's a freaking bully, man. He's so fun to watch. They can't stop him. Like, they can't stop him in the paint. There's no one out there that can stop this kid. He's shooting almost 61% from the field the last time I looked. He has the most games of 30 points on efficiency. He has 60% efficiency before the age of 21. So no one's ever done that in the NBA. No one.
27-7, and ever since they gave him kind of the tools to run this, like, the point forward type of thing, he's been excelling. He's been diming up, and he's got a little bit better defensively, but that's where I kind of drew the line, and I chose these other guys because of the defensive factor. Now, this argument, I feel like I flip-flop almost every week, and that is the Jimmy Butler and Tatum argument. I think that Tatum's better, but then again, when I really look deep down, Jimmy's the better defensive player, even though Jason Tatum's nothing to sniff at. He increased all his numbers as well. He's averaging 22, 7, and 7. He had COVID. So did Tatum. They missed some time. The Heat had been riddled with injuries this whole season. They're basically they have the same basic record. It's just a matter of, hey, they matched up in the playoff. I can't ignore this. I know this was last year, but they matched up in the Eastern Conference Finals head to head, and basically it was like best man win. And Jimmy went out there and led his team. So Tatum did increase his scoring from 23 to 27, and might even go up next year. He just continues to get better, and I love Jason Tatum. And when we talked about that in that top 5 under 25, he was sitting there number 2 for me. But I think the forwards, and you left out Jimmy Butler and you left out Julius Randle. Now, I think for me, it's a hard take to keep Julius Randle off. What is it? He's averaging 24, 12, and like 6. He has the Knicks in the 4th seed, and they've got one of the best defenses in the league, and he has been the number one reason for that. He's shooting 41% from the 3-point line. Give me Julius Randle based on their record, based on how he's just improved this season, how he's put his team on his back. As far as a season is concerned, do I think he's better than Zion or Tatum? No.
Yeah, I mean, I like Randle, and all my Knicks fans out there, don't come after me, okay? I like Randle. He's always been one of my favorite players. Like, I actually even loved him. I loved him at Kentucky. Like, that was my dude. And I feel like the Lakers screwed up because they gave up on these guys way too early. But then they won titles, whatever. But
yeah, him in particular, that was.
Yeah, I loved Randle. I think that you could obviously switch those two. I just think that on a team like the Knicks, Randle's stats get a little bit more inflated because as much as I like that team, they go to him, right? He's the first option. Zion, I don't feel like is a first option because of Ingram and the other guys they have around him, even Lonzo. He takes us.
Oh, he took over. He's the one now. They run the things for him.
But they don't look to him. You know what I mean? Like, so there's a little bit of a difference. Like,
they also don't win. They haven't been winning, and that's my backbreaker when it comes to that argument. That's why he's on my 4th team, even though I think he's better. Julius Randle is just they're winning, and when they're giving him that ball, he's coming through. Even though sometimes it's like, oh, this is a step back, someone's in his face. He's making them.
I know. I'm a Zion truther, so all you Zion guys, like, that's my guy. I'm a Duke guy. That's just who I am. So those of you guys come at me. I know he's got the Knicks in that 4 seed. They've looked great. I know the Pelicans' problems aren't Zion, though. Like, they have a coaching issue because their coach is trash. They have a fit issue. They can't shoot. They can't defend at all. So, like, when I'm looking at that, I just think if I'm looking at players in a vacuum, so how I kind of made my list was based on vacuum, who is the best player and who is performing the best. I know Randall's right there. You could easily switch one of these guys out. But for me, it was Zion. I understand, though. I don't hate the Randall thing. You can maybe argue Randall could sneak his way up even harder, right? Like, he is playing very well.
You could make a strong argument that he's second team, and you could put LeBron in the third. That argument is there. And what Tatum's done has been unbelievable. But I think that even if I were gonna move someone down from my third team, it would be Jimmy and Tatum, and then Zion would be my eighth forward based on record. I know that the Pelicans, it's really not his fault that they're that bad. It's bad roster construction, as you mentioned. But there is still something to like being at least in the fight. For 10 teams get in, we get 66.6% of the teams make the playoffs, and they have not a lick of a chance to like make any noise. They had a chance last year, and then you got Ja Morant. He's got his team in there, and his team ain't that great. So that's a forward. But so do you have a gripe with Jimmy? Do you got beef with Jimmy Butler? We gotta set that up. Like, what's going on? You didn't even mention him.
I think, he was right there for me. He's French for me. I just think Tatum has done more for his team. Jimmy's been playing well these last 5 or 6 games. I try to look at it as a vacuum, like, hey, who's been playing them better over the season? You can intercede those guys. You can really kind of go either one. They've been battling. I know that, and hey, shout out to Tatum. I know he's been dealing with like COVID issues even longer. He's kind of got that long COVID stuff. So he's definitely said he's still competing with that. So that's kind of where we're at. But Jimmy's right there. I just want to give a shout out to some of these young guns out here.
Yeah, he's finally back within I think the last 3 weeks, two maybe stretch 3 weeks. He's been himself plus another level as he broke his career high, in consecutive weeks. And then with the 60 ball, and he had 0 turnovers in that game. That might be the most impressive thing. 8 assists and not a single turnover. And they gave him the ball every single play down that stretch, and he won his team the game. My 2 fourth team, I know there are only 3 teams, but this was my divider. I had Donovan Mitchell and Devin Booker. So yeah, Devin Booker didn't make my third team. I put Chris Paul instead, but Donovan Mitchell, I don't know what he's got to do for people to give this man some damn respect, but he's 26, 5-4, and he just goes crazy, especially at the end of the games. And that's one of the reasons why I love him and I love some Tatum is I can trust these guys at the end of games to go out there and get me a W. Luka, there's some of these young guys can really, they're not shying away from the moment down the stretch. Yeah. So those were my 2 guys that I at least wanted to give a shout out and say, look, I really did think about you putting in, and who knows, things can change between now and a couple weeks. If Jimmy really plays really, really well, like he should be certified third team. And Tatum, same thing. They are fringe third teamers. My 4th team center was Adebayo, but the space between him and Gobert and the other 2 centers was just super deep. Do want to pick your brain on some mentionables that did not get in for centers. Clint Capella, Karl Anthony Towns. I really just don't have a list that's deep after that. Yeah,
those guys to me aren't in there. I think it's the top 3, and after that, it's kind of just if Towns could play defense and get his team not as the last team in the NBA, I think he has a legitimate shot because he's legit. But he needs a new home. He's got to go somewhere else. It's just not working out there.
They're surprisingly playing a little bit better ball. Rubio's getting more burn with this new coaching change. You can't just cross it off as an L right now. They're actually playing decently competitive. What Capella has done should be mentioned. He's just been incredible all season long. He's got Atlanta in the thick of things for the playoffs. KD, not enough games. We love you though. Kevin Durant, one of the best players that the basketball world's ever seen. Yeah. And then guards, there's so many damn good guards. Zach LaVine, if he doesn't lose all this time, I mean, he was the 50, 40, 90 and had incredible statistics. What Russell Westbrook has done in the last month and a half, he's first team all NBA. He's triple double every single night. He had a 20-20 game. I think it was 22 and 24. with his triple double, and he's gonna break that record by the end of this season. Oscar Robertson is gonna have to move over and say, "Good job, you young guy." Speaking of young, Trae Young, unbelievable. We mentioned Holiday having a good season. Conley really good. Simmons playing both ends, knowing his role to really lead that Sixers team in there, in the first or second seed. De'Aaron Fox has stepped up big time. And Jaylen Brown, one of our most improved players. He's just not making the cut. But those guards are damn good. I think that it's a clear line after I had Mitchell and Booker, and you had Paul, and you didn't have Beal in there. Would you have Beal in your fourth team if you had to have one?
Yeah, Beal's right there. Like you said, the guards is just insane. Like these guys are going to be battling and losing out on spots. Like that's like Conley, right? Like every year, it's like the guards always feel like there's somebody good. I like Beal, but I think volume wise, where he's at, I just don't have him in that category with the first three teams. I understand why you do, and I understand you're a Homer Wizards fan, so I get it. I didn't have Ja in there either, and I didn't have Fox or anything like that. But what I would say is like Beal's close. I mean, he's legit. I can't wait to watch him play on the Warriors next year. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
Hey, no. He's got Russell. He's not leaving Russell. We're not trading him. He's staying in Washington. He's a lifer.
Yeah, okay.
He's going to be the next Tim Duncan and Co. He's staying. Stockton. He's staying forever. I didn't know. No mention of Malone here on this podcast. So that's all we got for you. All NBA 2021. Again, this is Cinco de Mayo, the date. So don't come for us if Devin Booker has another 70-point game and you're like, why is he not on your list? Coach Kevin did have it on his list. So that's all we have for you today on Coach's Corner Triple Play Fantasy Podcast.